Welcome, viewers. I'm your host, Shane Mayers from Special Projects Real Estate Team. Today we're going to talk about one of SPRE's lines of service levels, which is about portfolio management. My focus is working with small property owners with a property value up to about 500 million and don't really have someone that they can turn to help them manage their investments, their leasing, and maybe don't have a budget for that yet. But they're looking for a very high-level person who understands commercial real estate, investing, equity placement, and equity returns, and usually hiring someone like that comes with a very high premium. So I can help you with that. Um, my current focus is the greater New York area where I'm licensed. But if you're interested in buying anything else across the country, I can always reach out to other companies in markets of focus and um, run the deal for you and let the licensed person in that market handle the licensed issues. If you're a property investor of one or more leased properties, it's fair to say that the equity that you put into the property is expected to generate a return. So you're looking at, let's say, your total cash and how much of that is going to be used for equity, and then it's going to be sliced up in sections to apply to different property buys, with the lease up generating return so that the overall portfolio generates a preferred return. I've been telling small property owners for more than 10 years that instead of just looking at your building from just a return, look at your building as a portfolio of investments. Your leases really are individual investments that generate a total return for the whole building, which is your portfolio. So space users will come and go. Lease terms will come and go. Every time that you lease a space, it's going to generate an X amount of return over the holding period. And when the lease comes due, you're either going to keep the tenant or replace them, or you're going to move them in the building and maybe to another building in your portfolio. So what I do is I help you understand how the equity that you placed in your building is generating return. And then I look at the rent roll and I determine whether or not the current lease up is helping your building or not. If the tenant use could be helping or hurting your building, it could be costing it more money to maintain it. Perhaps maybe you want to think about what type of tenant you might want to replace a current one with and what it'll cost you to do that. Two is I help you understand optimizing space on your floor. There's such a thing as tenant synergies, how different tenants on a floor and in a building can generate synergies of income. Maybe you have a host of financial service companies, like investment companies, two or three of them in the building. And from that, maybe you need an estate planner, an attorney, an accountant, um, that sort of thing. So maybe we want to look at that building to say your financial investment companies, like some kind of more local or regional type of company, is going to be your anchors. And maybe you'll have two or three of them in the building. And then you'll have maybe banking, um, tax planning, an accountant, um, an estate planning attorney, that sort of thing, so that when the clients come into the building, it's a one-stop shop. All the tenants in the building make money from that one visit. If you, it works a little bit like a retail center in that a shopping center needs synergies of tenants to keep visitors in the shopping center for a one-stop shop so that all the other retailers make money off of maybe an anchor. I help you with something called a efficient frontier, which I learned in a graduate level course from MIT about 5 years ago. And what an efficient frontier is, how do we apply lease up to reach investment returns of the property? I can go into that in a different um, video in more detail. Something else that I'm capable of doing for you is property management and construction management. The property management is I'll have a real estate broker's license in New York State, which will enable me to collect rents. And if you are a small property owner and you need a competent property manager who can keep your properties operating and also serve as a general agent to keep it leased, maybe we want to go down that path and talk about that. I'm certainly competent and schooled to be able to do that. Lastly, I can help you with from an investment sale perspective. We're looking at your total portfolio, and we're also looking at if market conditions change and tenant type of the buildings change, maybe that building falls off of your core type of property, and maybe we want to look at selling that building. Maybe we have substantial vacancy, leases coming due, and you're thinking, well, maybe you want a different kind of property and you can sell that off for a profit and use the money in a 1031 exchange to buy a different kind of property that's more closely aligned with your core type of property. So say maybe, for instance, you own Class C properties, you want to trade up to Bs or BBs. So maybe we want to sell off a property that's on the verge of lapsing within a year or so into a Class C type property, which will do well in its market, but it's not in your core focus, which now say is a B property, which brings you higher tenant credit and maybe more reliable income. I've done enough 1031 exchanges and have connections with intermediaries that I can help you with that. That's a general focus about Special Projects Real Estate Team. Again, we're based on 6th Avenue at 1180 Avenue of the Americas, 8th floor. We've been there for 10 years, and I foresee being there for at least another 10. Please reach out to me at LinkedIn at SP Holdings if you're interested in talking to me, and we'll have a conversation about whether or not you're in buying something or you need space and need some help. Thanks for listening. Maybe I'll hear from you soon.